Welcome to the Channel Surfers, where we navigate the rough seas of channel sales and strategy and hang 10 to give you the best answers that will help you, ride those waves to success. I'm John McCabe, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and good friend, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, John. I'm doing great, man. Another beautiful day. Another beautiful day.
Every day is a beautiful day.
I mean, look at this behind us, right? Look at this.
I know.
This is great.
We're in the our tropical office, reeling in the breeze and the cool waves. But hey, episode 41. We hit a milestone on our last one with 40. But episode 41, we're going to kind of continue a conversation we just had on AI. And what we're going to do is we want to talk about leveraging AI initiatives for channel sales and alliances. And I think this is, again, a direct follow-up applying the 5 AI approaches that we talked about in our last episode and integrating into the channel landscape. And we want to really bring this all down to earth for our partner channel leaders, right? And help them understand what we use as a way to make our jobs better, and aligning the tools that help with indirect sales models and the strategies that, help make your job better. So with that, I mean, let's start out and maybe Jeff, review just briefly what the 5 initiatives were that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah, I was going to say actually I'll kind of take a half step back and I'll hit the 5 initiatives, but it's about making your life better, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you can simplify things that you're doing every day, it's gonna make everything better in the end. I mean, that's really, in my opinion, that's what it kind of comes down to. So that being said, so what we talked about in the last episode, which I'm going to apologize, anybody just listen to it, you're coming in. My final comment, it was a little off kilter. I know I chuckled about it, John. But the 5 initiatives, or at least the 5 structured initiatives and approaches are efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, what I call growth knowledge base, expert base, knowledge base, and then growth. Mm-hmm. So there's the 3. So it's efficiency, effectiveness, productivity, knowledge, and growth, if we had to summarize it. So, and again, I'm referencing some really interesting information because I'm a student first and foremost of what's going on in AI and what's going on in our business and our world, so to speak. So I'm trying to be a sponge and just kind of learn. So I saw this and kind of latched onto it because it made a lot of sense and it really resonated based on what I've been seeing. So that's what we talked about in episode 40. Pardon me. And the goal here was, how do we tie this back to what we actually do, right? Channel sales, partner management, and alliances. And that's kind of going to be the main driver here. And I think you encapsulated it really well. We want to figure out how do we educate, inform, different people within the industry that we work in. You can be doing things better, right? So how can you drive better efficiency when you're onboarding, whether it's employees or partners, right? How do you do better, alignment, account mapping, boosting the productivity through the automation? I think one of the big things we talked about going back to, and we should get Intro to start sponsoring a show because we bring them up a lot. Or we got to start bringing on some.
They just got $3 million in funding, so they have money to spend. They were gonna. I don't know if you've seen their video for the announcement. It's hysterical.
I did. I'm going to find out who's
performing our party, and they're like, how much she costs? Like $3 million, and like.
I love the little kiddie pool. The guys playing on his laptop in the kiddie pool, but no, but when I say that, it's like deal registration, partner enablement, being more effective with your engagements, better targeting, better execution. We're using a lot of superlative kind of big words about, hey, this is the thing. It's what you can get. And just like what we try to do in business, right? We're trying to drive outcomes for our clients. AI can drive better outcomes for the business and streamline processes. I get it. A lot of fear, a lot of concern. I think the market is overly, I'm going to try to say touchy in a way, because the way that it's all been positioned is, they like, there was a big layoff, right? A lot of big layoffs, whether it was IBM, whether it was Accenture, whether it was AWS, well, we did it because of AI. I think you
Mhm.
have to peel back the layers. Was it the investment in AI? Was it actually taking people's jobs? I mean, I think it's a combination, but anyway,
Well,
I'll kind of
we've
pause.
said this many, many times. Like, I don't think you need to be afraid for your job. If you're at a really big company like an Amazon or, Cisco or any of those companies that are so big, Google, they overhire. So you really can't look at that and say they're eliminating jobs because of AI. They're eliminating jobs because they've got to cut costs and streamline a little bit
Right.
um, to reset. They're resetting. But if you're in a smaller company, I just don't think AI is going to replace you, and especially in the channel world. We covered this on the last episode. Yeah, that face-to-face interaction is you can't replace
It's
it with an
important.
AI. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Important. Well, and it's that step, right? But how do you get to that face to face? And I think
Mhm.
AI can take away, or at least streamline and speed up, make some of these processes more efficient to get you to that face to face, right?
Mhm.
What we say in sales businesses, time to revenue, right?
Mhm.
How do you get, what is the time, what is the cost of sale? What is it costing you to do that?
Mhm.
I
What's it costing
was
you
very
not to
much.
do it? Right.
Well, I mean, we grew up in an era with, the IBM sales call. It was a 16, 20 leg sales call. People like, what the hell? I go, yeah, everybody was putting their thumbprint, everybody was getting their fingerprints on deals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I also see, and we'll kind of pull through some of this, helping with the partner NPS score, driving better deal velocity and volume, right? Helping to drive better retention, partner retention and client retention,
Mm-hmm.
because if you just said it, like being in front of clients, like, but making sure that you have that efficacy around making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you are communicating on a good basis and keeping people in the loop of what you're doing.
Sure.
I think it helps, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So
anyway,
why don't we talk about, like, efficiency in channel operations and what we feel are, some of the finer points of utilizing AI in that way. Um, I mean, I'll start off and you can peel off of that, but I think, partner onboarding and
Mhm.
automation of that is really critical. And it's one of the things, and I've talked about this on other shows, enablement's not my thing. Like, I have to do it, but it's not something I'm like really comfortable with or great at. I think AI can help with that. And there are tools that are being built within PRMs and elsewhere that help with that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, where I see, and I'll call out some vendors, maybe they'll be a sponsor, but seriously, um, I'll work backwards. I mean, the one that I started playing around with, right? I heard of Zapier. I kept hearing about it, finally jumped in, understand what Zapier is, understand the Zaps. So getting Zapier to work with your CRM, right, to help automate some of the repetitive communication and the data sync tasks that are happening,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Uh, Sales guy at heart, hate CRM, hate it, like hate it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Name a salesperson that's like, oh man, I can't wait to go put my data in the CRM. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked about one of the partners out there. We talked about a draw throw and in partner, in partner and intro the PRMs out there, right? Helping to streamline and simplify that deal registration process, enhancing the data, the partner portal access, things of that nature. I definitely see those things being super, super helpful. You're a big fan of PRM, right? Why? Because it can be that landing page, that centrifuge of where information is, shared with a partner about what's going on. You got to drive value to that. And I think AI can also kind of help us speed that up, fix it, make it more relevant, you know?
Yeah. I agree. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just doing something here. Um,
You're right.
I
Ah,
got locked into my screen here. All right. So I think, you know, faster is good, especially with AI, and it helps speed your job. But what about, like, you know, um, quoting? AI in quote to cash and lead assignments and SDRs, and we talked about that. What is your thought around that? Because I think, an AI SDR platform is a way for companies to prospect faster and more efficiently. Look, it might borderline on eliminating jobs, but you also have to have somebody that
Yeah.
can control what's going on, prompting to do the SDR work.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why I mentioned the Zapier and the CRM, right? I kept it
Mhm.
kind of general CRM. I mean, it could be any CRM, HubSpot, Salesforce. And I know Salesforce has a lot of its own AI already built into it, but yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not just, quote the cash kind of thing, right? It is about that handoff process that needs to happen.
Mhm.
And making sure that there is a clean flow of information and making sure that there's clarity in the communication. I think that's something, I will say that I think that is something that is severely overlooked. It's, there's so much data, there's so much information, making sure the communication is on point and relevant to the conversation, to the needs, and driving the outcome. And I think that's where AI can help a lot because it helps people sift through. It's almost like, you're sifting for gold, right? You're trying to find it, but being able to get through some of that to understand how do we make sure that we've executed on what they said they need or what they're looking for, whether it be the
Mhm.
client or the partner. I think there's help on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, basically, I think productivity with partners is critical. How do you
Oof.
manage that relationship between um, enablement to discussion around strategy and opportunity that leads to deals? And I think creating playbooks through AI can help with that, right? Or utilizing sales enablement bots. Um, it's just a way for you to help kind of speed through that tricky part of the onboarding phase of a partnership, right? Which no lie, it takes a while for you to get a partner to take notice of you and to actually start talking about you. And I go through that every day with the company I'm with
Yeah.
because I'm trying to build brand awareness, get mind share from these partners, and I'm trying to figure out new ways. I think AI can help you figure out new ways, right?
I do. I come back to the whole sifting. I mean, the one thing that I will say, I mean, I think that AI is great at is the consumption of large amounts of data points,
Mhm.
and the ability to figure out how to cross correlate the interconnections between some of them. And a lot of times you don't see it. I think that's something that, a lot of it is obviously visible, but I think AI gives you the ability to crunch these large amounts of data and data points from different processes and
Mhm.
customers, clients, and solutions. And what really, at the end of the day, how do you simplify it? I'm a big math guy, right? Originally went to school, all the algebra, the trig, the calc, all that, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that math always taught me was reducing things to the least common denominator,
Mhm.
right? Get it down to its smallest form. I mean, and if you can simplify something, comes back to Einstein's quote, right? When you can explain something to a 7-year-old, then you truly understand it. Or maybe it was a 10-year-old. Could have been a 10-year-old.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah.
but that's where I think the benefit of AI. So to your point, right? And I do believe the playbooks. I know that you're a big fan of playbooks. I
Big
am
time.
too. I found it interesting, just digressing when we had Nelson on. Playbooks are great, but it's more about the principle of what you're trying to do. You got to be careful with a playbook because playbooks are not just a template that you drop in and start
Mhm.
using. Because if I used it here, oh, I can use it here. And his our conversation with him and his approach made me kind of step back and pause and go, wow, that totally makes sense. But this is where I think AI helps because it's like, well, if I use this playbook here and it was very successful, I should be able to use it here. Should. But now, how do I align this to this company's process, this company's solutions, the partner ecosystem, and the
Mhm.
deliverables? And I think you all of a sudden, you've now got a new version, a new iteration of the playbook that it better fits and aligns to the company, and the partners you're working with. That's just, again, my kind of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then again,
Yeah.
you've got other applications, when you're trying to drive productivity, right? You've got, what is it? Clari is one, right? Clari has an AI component to it where you can, help get better identification of the revenue opportunities with clients. There was the name just left me. Oh boy. Anyway, it was a way of building out battle cards, and I built out my own way of using actually 2 different AI engines to create a composite of how I want to work with, or how I should look to work with a company or a partner. And basically there was when I stumbled upon it, and basically that's what it did. It was an AI powered tool that allowed you to generate battle cards to help streamline and expedite the partner enablement. If I think of the name before we get out of here, I'll say it, but it was a goofy name.
Sounds like NotebookLM.
What's that?
It sounds like NotebookLM, but I guess it's just specifically doing battle cards.
It is, but it's already, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's already pre-built. So like NotebookLM, you have to go gather the data points and then create the notebook, and then you play with it. It already did all that. Right. And it's just a matter of you plug it in and it's already set up. And when I say it already generates it, John, into a battle card format. So battle card has, and I just stumbled upon it last week. I have to go find it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Looking at I keep looking at my other screen, which has my 65 browser windows open. That's an AI solution that I need. And then there was another one that I, again, kind of found, haven't really used it, but it was an application, I think it was called Chili Pepper, where it actually went in and helped with the scheduling and the meeting and the lead routing. I haven't done anything with that, but when I was kind of playing around, just trying to figure out, like, where does this make sense? That was another application. I'm not trying to give a lot of plugs to different solutions out there, but you just need to know what question to ask or how to ask the question, because I can guarantee you that, and I call it the second wave of AI solutions. There are solutions. Everybody, you had your LLMs, and then you had people building these, integration apps to build chat and, chatbots. You've now got this next wave, which is they're already pre-built and they're already sitting on top of an LLM that allows you to go and run with it. So
yeah, it's amazing what you can do. I'm a noob. I don't know anything about programming, and I've, just as a future teaser, I built an AI based chat application, and it doesn't take a degree, which it's scary, but it's also invigorating, because they're like, wow, what you can
takes
do.
A little elbow grease, man.
Yeah,
that's an old saying.
You still need the noggin to create it. It's just that you don't need the skills to be programmer, right? But I think the effectiveness of AI in your job is really critical. Let's talk about PRM. We kind of beaten that to death, but I think I see more and more PRMs that are putting AI into their platforms to help you be smarter, either through an enablement piece or through a help component. But I think there are so many tools that can help you be effective. I look, don't use AI to take credit for something that you created through chat or Claude or any of them. Use that information that's created to help make you better and to articulate to your executives or to your partners how things should work, like mapping out a strategy, an enablement plan. They're all very, very useful tools to help you do that, to make you more effective. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think chat and AI have really helped me be more effective in my job, because I can ask and prompt and get the answers that I'm looking for. Sometimes I know the answers, but I just want to make sure I have the right path that I'm taking.
Yeah. So I was just making a note because you made an interesting comment, and and I'll just kind of go off slight tangent, and been playing around with this AI stuff quite a bit since, I'm going to say, late April, May, right? We had that one episode where I looked at the engines, and I'm still blown away at the amount of changes that have happened since, I'm going to say, mid-May.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe this, and there's a bunch of different things that you're going to find, but I do believe that every AI chat LLM has its own personality. And I think it came up on the conversation with Rob Cohen. It's actually come up on a couple, but Rob's because of his company. And I was just making a note because I always forget this, but it's like Chad is kind of the Socratic doer, so to speak, right? He's kind of your doer, but he's also very kind of cerebral kind of thinking. The Claude to me is more of the analyst. It's getting it. Like I see Claude crushing Excel spreadsheets at some point, or even sheets. But Excel and Sheets because of what it can do, but it's more of an analyst type of solution. And then you have Gemini, and Gemini, I just, even within the past day or so, like they just came out with their new version, and they're doing stuff with it's, to me, that one is more the marketer, and then it's, what do I put down here? The visionary marketer, kind of being able to play with stuff. Like you can go in with, I think it's VO3 now, and they've now got a Nano Banana 3. Wacky shit you can do, pardon my French. And then Grok is still having a struggle with that one, but I'll just call him that's your friend. That's your friend that's going to be unbelievably brutally honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not really too familiar with that one.
It's weird. It's good. It's just different. But coming back full circle. So thinking about the driving of the effectiveness piece. Where I see. And again, just looking at how, because we talked about efficiency, right? We're talking about the productivity, but I think effectiveness, and you talked about PRMs. I think where I see the ability to drive the effectiveness is going to be in a lot, and I'll just throw some names out there. I think that you're going to see it with Crossbeam. Crossbeam helps with being more effective and overlapping the accounts and helping enable the partner selling. You got Notion, you got Confluence, right? Which helps with collaboration and workspaces across teams. What is it? Slack, right? So being able to Slack Connect can allow the collaboration cross organization communication, which is really, really helpful, especially in go to markets with alliances, for example, where you're both sitting in different silos. Slack Connect allows you to cross-pollinate a communication stream that's also somewhat secure. So again, it's allowing for a simpler communication, even though somebody's outside of your organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. What about expert-based systems and when you buy versus build in an AI? So it's like for companies that are out there that are trying to figure out their channel strategy or channel growth. What do you do? I'm thinking of that guy we heard yesterday and how he kind of had a situation and decided to do something about it, right? Like,
I think he could be a good guest on our show at some point. And we'll throw his name out there. But his product Quark AI, I get it. Like and by the way, you nailed it. It is something that we've lived with as channel salespeople, partner managers, channel leaders. You get in, the expectation is complete. There's a complete disconnect on expectation for channel. It is what it is. But you have to work on that, bridging that gap, getting the executive buy-in, getting the leadership tie-in, but also make sure you effectively communicate that, what it is we're trying to do and what that runway looks like. Like this plane is not taking off in 3 months. I don't know.
No.
I don't know what's in your Kool-Aid cup, but that ain't happening.
I mean, that's a great question for chat. Like, how long does it take a channel program to grow and generate revenue? I guarantee you it's probably going to be somewhere in the 6 or the 12 to 18 month time span. But yeah, like getting back to this guy, his name is Chris Messina. He'd been in a role just like us, running channels, building the strategy, building out the program. And executives after like 3 months were like, all right, where are the leads? Where's the revenue? Yeah, I always try to tell executives and sales reps, like, channel isn't an ATM machine. You don't go in and pop in a code and money pops out. You've got, it's a marathon of relationship, and you got to build relationship. You got to bring deals. You got to do the things that like create the opportunity and the interest, right? Some of the biggest companies that are selling with resellers now, like CrowdStrike or Cisco or AWS, they started out with, nothing, and it took them a little while. I mean, granted, their products caught fire, but now it's like no brainer. Partners know how to sell them. So if your company is in startup mode, just be understanding that you're not going to get very far for the first 12 to 18 months with the partner, because there's got to be a problem solving a need that is satisfied by your product for the customer, and then word of mouth and of the customer and the partner reps and everybody to get that brand awareness and get you to create more opportunities. So I think
absolutely, and I'll throw this out there. And I was having an offline conversation with somebody a while back about one of our episodes. And I'm going to also relate to the episode we did with Vaughn, the CRO
for My Matrix.
If the CRO's average lifespan is 14 to 18 months, and the average channel leader is also in that same span of, I'm going to say, 15 to 18 months, 14 to 18 months, that creates a problem, because the conversation is real. By the time you get to having a fully functioning, running go-to-market with channel, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5, 3 years. And people look at me like, that's crazy. Now, I'm really curious to see if AI can speed that up at all. But I'm just telling you what historically I've seen, and I'm going back over 20 plus years of watching channel, and again, coming in from scratch to build something, brand awareness, getting known, getting with the clients, blah, blah, and then people just go, they don't have the patience for it. And that's where I think this comes in, John, is they don't have the patience. And then next thing they're moving on to something else because they're looking for that quick fix. They're used to the dopamine hit. Oh my God, listen to me. Yeah. Right. But to your point, getting back to this part, which is, in these 5 levels, the expert, or what the knowledge base, totally agree. And by the way, how do you drive better partner enablement if unless you can share information more seamlessly, more rapidly, right? And I think one of the best is, the Catalyst app, right, for partnership. I think it's Catalyst app with partnership leaders, like being able to go into that. And that's gotten so much better because it provides advice, it provides direction, it provides potentially support for people. You've got, there's another one, Partner Tap, that I've seen where it helps you with, org charts and identifying different interdependencies. How do you help identify a part, your champion, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of, I'll say, niche solutions out there, and a lot of them are leaning into AI to help speed up the velocity, and I say speed and velocity at the same time, but providing a level of velocity that allows you to make sure that you can manage it effectively to drive your results. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is how do you, and we've shared this. I mean, I have a G drive, and anybody that has worked with me, if they've ever had a question, I'm more than happy to give an answer. And I would say over the last 2 years, I would just create a folder and then dump my stuff into that folder and just be like, here, this is everything I got. See if that helps.
Was it easy for them to find it and get an answer quickly?
That wasn't my problem. My problem, right? But no, and I know where you're going with this. It's like, I would take, and just dump in, contracts, folders, information. A lot of it is generic. Presentations I've done, structures, outlines. And
I used to ask you for your 30, 60, 90-day plan all the time.
It's with all due respect, I didn't have, I'm going to digress here. I mean, I didn't have AI when I first wrote that. And by the way, what I ended up, I think, sharing with you was probably version 9 or 10, but I kept building on it. And where that originally came from, right, was what I was actually trying to do it, and I started building it out for myself. And then all of a sudden I realized when you were going to get a job, people were like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, here's my 30, 60, 90.
Mm.
Just because I got to set the you got to set the table, blah, blah, blah. But to answer your question, I would dump as much information as I could to people. How they sift through it is up to them. I wouldn't give them too much. Case in point, inevitably people would reach back out and be like, hey, can you help me with, how did you handle distributors, or how do you handle NFR? How do you, my favorite was, I got a conflict, and those are more conversational, but it's, and I'm more than happy to share it. But to your point, if there was a way, and I think a lot of it's out there. I think a lot of people right now just go out to chat or Gemini, and they just, they'll search that, which is okay. But you also got to think about the probability of just the random information that's out there. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. And I actually was working with somebody who came to me with their plan. They were given a business plan, or not a business plan, a program that they were going to have to align to. And I started looking at it and I laughed. I go, man, this looks like it was written by AI. Why? Because it had every single key data point that you could think of. But the problem was they didn't connect. They didn't necessarily, it was almost conflicting. I go, well, if you're trying to do this, that means you're driving a business to do this. But now they have these factors in here. That means you're trying to do this. Like they're diametrically opposed to each other. Like you've got to figure out, what are you trying to do? What is the channel? What partnerships are you trying to drive? How do you want to work with them? And once you figure that out, okay, well then we'll go with this one. Get rid of that. That shouldn't even be in here because it's going to conflict with this go to market. Just because you have that doesn't mean it's going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. It does. It does for sure.
So, but anyway, I went off on a tangent there.
Well, it wouldn't be Jeff Lennon without tangents.
It's the shirt. It's the back.
Yeah.
This shirt actually matches my background pretty well.
Nice. So we're kind of bumping up against time again, but are there any final thoughts on this kind of integrating the 5 initiatives into like how channel executives do their job?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the hope is, and I know we threw a lot out there. We didn't even get into the, some of the products like Reveal. And I'm just looking, I actually wrote these down as we were talking. If you're trying to do growth base, you got Reveal, you got some eco-led stuff. There's partner base. There's, and by the way, the eco-led one, that's Nearbound. And that's why I wanted to come back. So going to go back to some of the fundamentals. It's one of the big drivers for why we do this, and going to nearbound.com to get the ecosystem-led growth program or approach, super, super helpful. And I think the goal here, the takeaway is, making sure that any channel partner leader, right, that they're always learning and they're willing to learn and apply the AI stuff to help them amplify their outcomes, right? And simplify the process so that they can get more, hit their goals and reduce, I'll call it, a lot of the noise that you may see or run into when you're trying to do this. That would be my big takeaway from the 5. Yeah. But it does come back to starting, right? Efficiency, effective, and productivity. Because if you can get those 3, you're going to dramatically increase your probability of being successful in the channel.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, we're going to have a 3-parter for this topic, and I'm really excited to talk about the next show because it kind of leads into something that we're both doing, and we'll talk about empowering channel partners with different AI solutions. So we could talk about the reveals and the all those tools you were talking about. But until then, I mean, for today's show, I think we covered a really good topic, as we lead in from like, what is AI? What are the initiatives? How is it applied for your job? And then we'll talk about the tools that can help channel partners and channel executives do their jobs better, right? Amen. So until then, Jeff, thanks again for joining. You guys can reach us at www.channelsurfers.com, which, by the way, we're launching a new website very soon. A little more interactive than our first iteration, but you can get our podcast there. You can reach out to us to request to be a guest. And again, we would love to have you as a guest. If you hear something that rings true and you want to talk about, feel free. We'd love to have you on. And also our LinkedIn page is another source to get in touch with us, where we post every week. Our latest episode is going to be released. So with that, just again, thanks Jeff for joining, and we will chat very soon on episode 42. Another
42.
milestone. Every
No
episode
donut jokes here this time, promise.
No.
But no, John, and I'll just want to end it. Thank you, man. This has been a blast. I'm enjoying
What a
this.
ride, right? And we still have a couple of weeks left in the year to add. So
Absolutely.
we'll talk again very shortly.
Thank you, guys. Thanks,
All right, guys.
everybody.